So should you leave all of your money, all of your assets to your spouse after you pass away? Question we get all the time. You've got assets, you've got money, you've got a house, you've got something. You're wondering, hey, how should I do this? I want to make sure that my kids get some of this, but obviously I want to make sure, let's say, your wife, that she or your husband, he gets whatever you have as well, and that they're taken care of, that they're provided after you pass away. But a lot of people are concerned, what happens if that spouse remarries? What happens if they get remarried and now that new spouse tries to take some of the money? Is that money going to be protected? So the money that you had left for your kids maybe now is not going to go to them, or you're concerned that it won't go to them. You're concerned it's going to go to the new spouse. Or maybe you're concerned that part of the money is going to go get taken if your spouse gets into an accident and now someone sues them and tries to go after that money. So what can you do? Are you worried? Or if that's something you're worried about, what things can you do to make sure that the money that you've protected, or the assets that you've protected, or that you want to protect, that you've acquired over your lifetime, go to the people you want them to go to. So, one thing that we generally recommend if we're doing some sort of trust is put parameters in place, basically so that spouse protects themselves from themselves. So what I mean by that is, let's take the example of if they get married again, right? And you're concerned, maybe you don't have any issues with them getting married, that's fine. You all have an understanding. If one of you passes away, the other person can get married, no issues there. But what happens if that marriage then goes south and maybe they get divorced? You probably don't want whatever money you were going to leave to your kids to now get taken by that second or third spouse, whatever. So one of the things you might want to do is you might require that in order for your spouse to keep getting distributions from the trust, to keep getting money, if they are going to remarry, there has to be a prenuptial agreement in place. And so you're going to require that in order for them to, that's fine if they want to remarry, no issues. You obviously can't tell someone they can't ever remarry, but you can put in some language into your trust that says, well, if that's fine, if you're going to remarry, no issues. But in order for you to keep getting access to this money, there has to be some sort of prenuptial agreement in place. And that way, that prenuptial agreement is obviously, going to address, that maybe that money that your spouse is receiving, or that he or she inherited or received from you, that's off limit. That's a non-marital asset that cannot be touched. And you'll put in the prenuptial agreement, we'll put some language in there to make sure it's protected. And that way, maybe your spouse would not be the type of person who would want to say, hey, I need a prenuptial agreement, and so people have their own opinions about prenuptial agreements, but this way it kind of takes the decision away from your spouse. It basically says, listen, I would not have done a prenuptial agreement, but my spouse basically from the grave is saying that I have to have one. So that might be something that you want to consider, and that protects, that's just one of several ways that you could protect from divorce, if that were to happen. And another idea you might want to consider is, if you're setting up something, is again to protect from creditors. So one of the things that we like to do is we like to have either an AB trust or an ABC trust, kind of technical, and there's a bunch of different names. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to put some of that money off limits. For all intents and purposes, it's off limits. The spouse can still receive some, it can still receive some distributions from it, but he or she is probably not going to have complete direct access to that money, because if he or she does, then if they're in an accident or someone sues them, or there's legal issues where that money could now potentially be claimed by creditors, those creditors could say, yeah, but you have access to this money, this is your money, so we should be able to get that, to get paid back for the debt or what liability, whatever it is. So we're probably going to put that money into some sort of protect and trust, so that they can't touch it. Again, just another couple ideas. So a lot of times when we're doing estate planning, these are things that people don't even think about. They just think, hey, I need to do a, quote unquote simple will. It's really easy, but they don't think about these kind of things. So, if that's something you've got questions about, you're here in Florida, I'd love to speak with you. Go to our website, probatefirm.com, to learn more.